Hi everybody, my name is Brooklyn Whitcomb. Now on today we are going to create our own Kente cloth. To do that we're going to follow a few steps. For this activity you're going to need these supplies that are listed on the lesson plans. I do suggest reading the lesson plans first so that there is no confusion on what steps are being taken. You will need to have 4 colors of cloth. Try and get colors like this blue, green, or yellow that are plain. If you must get something with a pattern, do your best to try and use the underside version. For larger class sizes, you're of course going to use cheaper material, but these fat quarters are at Walmart, currently at my local Walmart for $1. You will notice on your lesson plans that there are worksheets provided for you. These are the printed versions of the worksheets. You want to start this lesson by going ahead and having the students pull out their copy of Kente Cloth reading. You will need to read this paper together as a class, highlighting or underlining important information as the student sees fit by each person. The students are then going to answer the questions on this worksheet. After reading this text, you'll notice that some students will have many highlighted forms of the word, and some might have very few. That's okay. Each one of them is going to have different understandings. After reading, they will then go through and answer these questions. Make sure you discuss with them that you will be focusing on the Kente cloths from Ghana. So on their first answer, what part of Africa did Kente originate from? It originated from West Africa. In other words, explain the origins of the Kente cloth. Kente cloth was originally made and reserved for Ashanti royalty, limited to special social and sacred functions. You can then go ahead and answer all of these questions together as a class or individually, depending on your preference. After presenting this worksheet and doing it together as a class, you may want to go ahead and show some of the examples of Kente cloth. Here's some examples from the Seattle Art Museum. Show them the interlying patterns of the weaving, as well as notice that there are designs going here. These are just a few examples of what is out there and from museums. Again, this is the Seattle Art Museum. You may notice that in the lesson plans, other examples are given. For example, in the lesson plans, you'll notice a wrapper detail from Ashanti peoples in Ghana, cotton and rayon. This is from the National Museum of African Art and the National Museum of Natural History. In this purchase with funds provided by the Smithsonian Collections Acquisition Program. You will then present the students with the third worksheet called Kente Cloth Designs. Now the designs not only have beauty in them, but they also mean different things. This first detailed pattern is called knowledge, military strategy, strength, diversity, lots of work, courage, experience, and so on. Not only do the patterns matter, but also the colors. This green, like I've chosen, means earth, life, growth. Blue can represent peace, peaceful love, patience, wisdom. Yellow can show royalty, wealth, or sun. And the back of this pattern will be white, and white can show innocence, healing, or even more peace. The students will need to collect their colors and as they represent themselves. And then they will need to pick a base color. Because this has so many patterns on it, don't want it to be my base color. I think I'm going to pick yellow. I very much enjoy the sunshine and the warmth it provides, so I'm going to use yellow as my base. Now, before I go on further and explain, I want to remind you to be safe. Being safe with scissors means that you are, in fact, sitting down when you are doing your cutting. When you pass your scissors, you're going to pass the scissors with the handle first to your friends, which means you need to hold the blade down. Now, your older students might be able to do this and cover the entire blade, but your younger students will not be able to cover the entire blade, and that's okay. If you do need to walk while holding your scissors, walk slowly when carrying your scissors around. Do not run with your scissors. Make sure that you are practicing safety while doing so. I would also like to remind you that when using your Sharpies or using your fabric pens, that this is a pen that is only used for your fabric. Please do not draw on yourself, your friends, or any other materials in the class except for what you are given to specifically write or draw on. You will also need to make sure that your glue only goes on the materials. Teachers, if you feel that your students have not mastered the chance to use liquid stitch, they may in fact use Elmer's stick glue, and you can go back and glue them down with liquid stitch yourself. Now moving on to the next page of our materials. We are going to open our quarters of fabric. Once you have your material laid out flat, you will want to go ahead and take your ruler. You're going to lay it down, aligning the edge of the ruler with the top of your fabric and making a small mark at the 1-inch mark. You're going to do this all along your fabric. Teachers, you may choose to make your fabric shorter than this. You do not need to use a full quarter. Please make sure that you have it measured out to how you would specifically like it. Once you've made these marks, you're going to connect them with the ruler and create a straight horizontal line across the top. Now, if it is not perfect, that's okay. Art is never perfect. All right. Now you have a line across the very top. You will not cut past this line or mark past this line. You are then going to take your ruler and again align it with the edge. This time your ruler is going to align horizontally, parallel to this line up here. Parallel means that these two lines will never cross, and they are both going the same way. So they're both going horizontally. So I am going to mark 1 inch every inch across. Once I have that, I am going to draw these lines vertically, which means they're going to go up and down. This line is going to be perpendicular to this horizontal line that we drew earlier. So I'm going to place my ruler flat and draw the line straight down. I am doing this with my Sharpie or fabric pen that your teacher has provided. Alright guys, I'm going to pause my video and be right back after all of my lines are drawn. Great job guys! Now you should have a piece of fabric that looks kind of like this. One horizontal line across the top and many vertical lines this way. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your clipboard that you have from before and you are going to lay your cloth on it, clipping the very top horizontal line to the top. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and trim my fabric to fit better on this device. I'm going to make sure that one of my lines over here is the ending line so that I am not cutting up the middle of the strip, so that I have equally distributed lines all the way across. I will then take my scissors and cut up to each line And again, do not go past your top horizontal line. Only cut the vertical lines as you go. I'll be right back. Can't wait to see your vertical cuts. Great job, guys. Now you should have something that resembles this. If you don't cut directly on the line, that is okay, but try your best to stay on the line as you go up. Next, you're going to take out another sheet of fabric. You're going to take this and cut it after drawing horizontal pieces that are 1 inch thick. So what you're going to do is do the same thing we did over here, but this way. So each inch you're going to go up, mark it, draw your line, and then cut it. This time you'll cut all the way from one end through the other. Great job! You should now have strips of each of your colors and be ready to start weaving. You'll notice that we have 3 colors, which means we're going to need an A, B, C pattern. Remember from your lessons before that ABC means we're going to go in a certain order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go blue, green, and then the back of my cactus fabric. Again, we will try to avoid patterns on our fabric as much as possible. However, sometimes it just cannot be helped. Alright, so remember you're going to need to do an over-under pattern, which means I'm going to lift up every other one of my strips on my base. And then I'm going to take my blue, and so it goes over, under, over, under, over, under. Now I notice that my piece of fabric right here is a little wobbly, so I'm going to pull the fabric this way just a little bit, and I'm going to pull it up to the top as far as it will go. Great job! It is now at this time that I'm going to use my glue. Again, teachers, if you do not feel comfortable with your students using liquid stitch, you can just use a stick of Elmer's glue. We're going to lift up this top one and put some glue here, then put it back down, and lift up this last one, put some glue here, and then put it back down. I'm going to pause while I go ahead and do that. Great. So again, I lifted this first flap up, put a little bit of glue right there, fold it down, push it in, make sure I work my way over, that it's pushed up all the way, go to my last strip, lift it up, put on some more of my liquid stitch, and press the fabric down. This will secure it from going anywhere. I'm then going to continue my ABC pattern. So this is my A strip. I'm going to go in next with my green fabric. So I'm going to take a strip of my green fabric here, and I'm going to do the opposite. Now what that means is I started my pattern by doing over. So my first pattern is going to be under. So I'm going to alternate with the opposite strips. Great, so I'm going to lay my green down. Again, we're going all the way up to the top that we can. We're going to lay those down. As so. So this is going to look a little differently when we go to glue, because we're going to have to lift that first strip up. Again, making sure that the fabric is all the way up that it will go. Lay some fabric liquid stitch here on our green fabric. Lay down this yellow fabric again and lightly press. We are then going to go ahead and do that to the last strip as well. Now this is just a simpler way when using fabric to do our weave. In fact, it's a lot like how they do their patterns in Ghana using a loom. What we've done is we've created our own loom. You can also take your fabric, and since we're going to be C, we're going to use this next one, and you can start it in the pattern by going over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. And again, you want to shimmy that all the way up that you can, and we're going to glue that. We're going to continue this pattern all the way down, gluing at the end until we have about this much left at the end. It doesn't have to be an exact measurement, but you're going to just stop when you have a little bit over an inch at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and pause my video while I finish my weaving, and then I'll see you back in a moment once I've done that. Good luck, students! Great job, guys! So yours should resemble something like this. It is a checkerboard pattern. When you weave, you notice you would go over, under, over, under, over, under, and we do that on each one, and we alternate by rows. So I went over, then under, and then over, under, then over. You'll also notice that my ABC pattern stayed all the way true to the end. A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C. So now we're ready for the next step. For this next step, we're going to need our scissors once more. Before you do that, make sure your lid is on your glue and your glue is properly stored and put away so that it does not create a mess while you're working. So we're going to trim our excess. By trimming our excess, I mean this extra fabric on the end. We're going to cut all the way up along the side of our base fabric. So what this means is that when my yellow fabric ends, so does my extra fabric. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Be very careful and make sure to take off the extra pieces. Please ask your teacher what she wants done with the scraps before throwing anything away. Great job. You're going to go ahead and do that for both sides. Again, do not cut into your yellow fabric. Just cut all the way alongside your last piece of yellow fabric. Oopsie. There we go. And last one. I'm just going to cut this last piece. There we go. If you need to trim up a little more because you didn't trim very evenly, that's okay. Again, guys, this is a work of art and it represents you. Nothing in your project is going to be perfectly lined up, but you can always trim it and make it better as you want. Once you have both sides trimmed to your abilities, what you're going to do then is you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut this remaining fabric all the way up in little strips, but don't cut into the last row. So you're going to cut it right here. You'll notice I didn't measure it because it doesn't have to be exact. Just try your best to make them about the same as possible. Alright guys, I'm going to pause again while I go ahead and do that. Great job, guys! So now you should have some fringe at the bottom. Now if you'll notice that our checkerboard pattern has something that's missing, and that's the designs. If you want to pull out your Kente Cloth designs from earlier, I'd like for you to go ahead and look at it once more. Now, as I said, I used some colors based on my representations here. Doing so, I used green to represent earth and life. I used blue to represent peace and love and patience. I used the yellow to represent my wealth and sunshine, since I love the sun. And then I used a white and blue combo to go ahead and represent more peace and more love. But I also need to represent myself using these patterns. You'll notice that some of these patterns represent different things in different ways. But what you'll also notice is that each of these designs have very sharp and straight edges. When looking at my initial pattern on this cactus cloth, you'll notice that it's a representative of nature. Here's a bigger piece of scrap material from my cactus pattern. It's got some curvy edges and it's easy to represent nature with it, which is why we use the back of it. Because when making a kente cloth, you are actually going to use geometric shapes. Now, geometric shapes do not represent things in nature and represent more of a math feel. What that means is that they use squares and triangles and rectangles with sharp edges and straight lines. So I want you to look at this and see what represents you. So I like the strength pattern, as well as some others. I'm also a mother, so I could use that, but that might be pretty hard to do with a small square. But what we're going to do is create a pattern of these. So on all my blue, and again, blue represents patience and love, I want to represent forgiveness on that. So I'm going to take my Sharpie, and you might have a fabric pen. I have a fine tip on this, so hopefully it'll be easier to do. And I'm going to do this pattern for forgiveness that is on my sheet. So I'm going to look at it and do my pattern of forgiveness using these geometric shapes and fill it in. Now, if for some reason you feel that there is something on here that's not represented, that means a lot to you, then I want you to come up with your own pattern. But if you come up with your own pattern, please draw a picture of it on that page and an explanation of what it means. For example, if you were to create your own pattern to represent yourself, maybe your favorite color, or maybe your favorite pet is a dog, you still need to use these straight lines and geometric shapes. Do not create organic shapes with curves. Okay? Go ahead and do that pattern. But remember, on all blues, I'm going to do that same pattern. Okay? And I'm going to do then a different pattern on all my greens and a different pattern on all my whites. Why? Because these patterns represent something just like the colors do. So once I am done coloring those in and doing all my patterns, I'm going to come back. But I'm going to go ahead and pause real quick while I do my patterns on each of my colors. Good job, guys. Your pattern should look like this on all of your things. Now you're going to look at your third worksheet. On your third worksheet, you're going to write a short paragraph about what your kente cloth means. Please make sure you used at least 2 of the designs on the Kente Cloth Designs paper so that you can explain 2 of those and fully explain the colors and what they mean. You'll notice at the top of the page there's more colors and more explanations of what they mean. Some of these are just synonyms for them and additional meanings that were given to you on the Kente Cloth Designs paper. Next, you're going to take out your index card and you're going to write my Kente Cloth by, and write your name. So I'm going to write Mrs. Whitcomb. Good job. This will accompany your Kente cloth when it is hung on the wall. I can't wait to see all your designs.